Hi everyone, welcome to the class. In our previous class, we have seen the classification of carbohydrates. So we left with the last classification that we'll try to discuss, and we'll continue with the concept of the monosaccharides in detail. So we'll start with the first monosaccharide, glucose. Now, just to recall, the classification of carbohydrate overview we'll try to observe. Sugars and non-sugars are the basic classification of carbohydrates. So under sugars, based on the saccharide units obtained, we have a monosaccharide, so which is the simplest form of carbohydrate. Oligosaccharide, which upon hydrolysis produces 2 to 10 monosaccharide units. Whereas polysaccharides will produce more number of saccharide units on their hydrolysis. Monosaccharides, based on the number of carbon atoms, so minimum with 3, so are classified as trioses with 4 carbon tetroses, with 5 carbon pentoses, with 6 carbon hexoses. And based on the functional group, we know that aldehydes or ketones will be the functional group present in carbohydrate. So those carbohydrates or monosaccharides with aldehyde as functional group are called as aldoses, and those with ketone as a functional group are called as ketoses. So by considering both, we have seen aldohexose and ketohexose with the given examples. Then oligosaccharides, we discussed disaccharides with lactose, maltose, and sucrose as the important examples there. Then polysaccharides are classified as homopolysaccharides and heteropolysaccharides. Where in homopolysaccharide the repeating unit is same, whereas in the heteropolysaccharide it is different. So just with that basic overview, so we'll try to discuss one more classification of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are classified as reducing sugars and non-reducing sugars. The sugars under the carbohydrates, so they are classified into reducing sugars and non-reducing sugars. Now, what is this reducing and non-reducing? So we'll try to observe with simple examples. Now, based on the reducing property exhibited by the sugars, so towards the Fehling solution and Tollens reagent. Fehling solution. So it is a mixture of two, Fehling solution A and Fehling solution B. So that we are going to learn in the unit aldehydes and ketones. So along with that, so it is one more reagent, Tollens reagent. So both are the mild oxidizing agents. So that is ammonical solution of silver nitrate is referred to as Tollens reagent. So based on the ability of the sugar to reduce these two solutions, so we are classifying the sugars as reducing sugars and non-reducing sugars. Now, along with that, we'll try to give one more reason. So why the reducing property is related for these sugars and why the other cannot reduce these solution. So with that reason, we'll try to relate. Now, so in simple, what are reducing sugars if it is considered? The sugars which reduces Fehling solution, the sugars which reduces the Fehling solution and Tollens reagent are called as reducing sugars. So Fehling solution, just to give the significance, I am writing instead of repeating that as seen, which reduces Fehling solution and Tollens reagent. Just an abbreviation I'm using for the explanation. So when you are practicing, try to write in complete words. Now the sugars which reduces Fehling solution and Tollens reagent are called as reducing sugars. Are called as reducing sugars. Whereas the sugars which does not reduce the Fehling solution and Tollens reagent, the sugars which does not reduces the Ferling solution and Tollens reagent are called as non-reducing sugars. Now, if we consider what is the reason for this particular reducing and non-reducing property, just we'll differentiate with one more reasoning point also. Now, what are reducing sugars? The sugars which reduces the Ferling solution and Tollens reagent. Non-sugars are those which does not reduces the Ferling solution and Tollens reagent. Now, to understand the reasoning point, you need to know about the bond. So that in detail in disaccharides we'll try to discuss. So the bond which links the two monosaccharides is called as glycosidic bond. It is called as glycosidic bond or glycosidic linkage. The bond or the linkage which relates or which joins the monosaccharides as a monomers in building the carbohydrates of polysaccharide nature or oligosaccharide nature. So the bond is called as glycosidic bond or a glycosidic linkage. We'll try to see how exactly the bond is formed. Now, to understand a reasoning point, so the information about glycosidic bond is required. Now, in reducing sugars or in the non-reducing sugar, along with this information, you require one more, that is the functional carbon. So functional group carbon. Now we know that the functional group present in aldoses is aldehyde, whereas in the ketoses it is ketone. That is, either you are going to see the aldehyde or ketone group as the functional group. If in a given saccharide, that is either a monosaccharide, oligosaccharide, or polysaccharide. So in all the monosaccharides, their aldehyde groups or ketone groups, so they are involved in cyclization in the molecule, and they are involved in only cyclic linkage, and they are not involved in glycosidic bond. Hence, all monosaccharides, due to the presence of free aldehyde group or ketone group, due to the presence of free aldehyde or ketone group, without participated or without involved in glycosidic linkage, they exhibit the property of reducing the Ferling solution and Tollens reagent. So I'll repeat the point, try to understand it clearly. So once you know the bond linking the two monosaccharides as glycosidic bond, and the functional group present in the monosaccharides as aldehyde and ketone, it may be any one of this, not both. Once in a given such carbohydrate, there is a free aldehyde or ketone group without involved in the glycosidic bond, such a free functional group is responsible for reducing these two solutions. So hence, so it exhibits the reducing property. So this will be the reason so why the sugars are reducing in nature with respect to any example if it is asked. Whereas non-reducing sugars are those in which the anomeric carbon or the functional carbons, the functional group carbon is involved in glycosidic linkage. Or you can say in other terms, there is absence of the free aldehyde or ketone, so which involved in the glycosidic linkage. So hence it does not reduces the Ferling solution or Tollens reagent. Hence it is called as non-reducing sugar. The best examples here, so you can relate any monosaccharides, all the monosaccharides are reducing sugars. If you take any monosaccharide, glucose, fructose, mannose, galactose, ribose, or any examples, So all the monosaccharides you can relate it as reducing. It is glucose. Just few examples I'm mentioning here: fructose, galactose, ribose, etc. Any monosaccharide. And in the disaccharide, the important examples what we discussed is it is lactose, maltose, and sucrose. So among that, it is the maltose and lactose you can take. Under disaccharides, the examples of reducing sugar you can consider as maltose and lactose. Polysaccharides are not required as we are learning under the sugars. So you just relate with mono and disaccharides. Whereas the only known non-reducing sugar is sucrose, which will be very important 1 mark question. So give the example of a non-reducing sugar, or which is the only non-reducing sugar if it is asked. So it will be the sucrose. So what is the reason if it is related in sucrose? So we are going to see the monomers. The monomers or monosaccharides building the sucrose is glucose and fructose. Glucose and fructose. So by joining with alpha 1,2 glycosidic linkage, about this, if you understand the structure, it is very easy to learn. So after learning the structure, we'll come back here and we'll try to give the significance of these linkages and all. Now in sucrose, the monosaccharides are glucose and fructose. Both are linked by 1,2 glycosidic linkage, and these 1,2 first carbon of the glucose is a functional carbon. So this is a functional group carbon. And the second carbon of the fructose, again it is a functional group carbon. As both the functional group carbon atoms are involved in formation of a glycosidic bond or glycosidic linkage, sucrose is the only non-reducing sugar. Whereas in all these examples, so there either one respective functional group carbon, in the case of maltose or lactose, is free to exhibit the reducing property. Or in all these monosaccharides, so the glycosidic bond is not present, hence they are all reducing in its nature. So this will be an important another classification and the most helpful classification for competitive exams to answer reducing sugars and non-reducing sugar. So to understand these tests will also be considered as a differentiation test for to identify reducing sugars and non-reducing sugars. So in the practical chemistry also the tests are helpful in learning about Fehling's test and Tollens test. So we'll focus in the unit aldehydes and ketones. Hope this information is clear. To conclude, reducing sugars are those which reduces Fehling solution and Tollens reagent. Non-reducing sugars are those which does not reduces the Fehling solution and Tollens reagent. So try to use writing in complete words. Don't use any short forms when you are writing your answers. So when explanation is considered, I may use few short forms. So but you try to avoid and try to write very clearly in detailed words. So when you are writing the notes, the running notes. Then so the bond which links the two monosaccharides or monosaccharide units together is called as glycosidic linkage or glycosidic bond. So in that glycosidic bond, if the functional group carbon atoms of the combining monosaccharides are not involved in glycosidic linkage, they are free to reduce the Fehling solution and Tollens reagent and will exhibit reducing property. Whereas those functional groups which involved in the glycosidic linkage directly, then the free functional group is not there. So hence it does not reduce the Fehling solution and Tollens reagent, and as a result they are non-reducing in nature. So sucrose is the only non-reducing sugar, whereas the remaining all mono and disaccharides we can take it as reducing sugars. So it may be expected as 1 mark as well as 2 mark questions. So try to focus it clearly. So with this basic information, so we completed all the classification regarding the carbohydrates. Now we'll move on to the monosaccharides to learn in detail. We'll start with the first monosaccharide, it is glucose. Now we'll start with the first monosaccharide, it is glucose. We'll try to see few important information regarding the glucose first. Then we'll try to understand the structure of glucose, how it is elucidated. That is, what are all the supportive evidences to give a particular structure of glucose. By learning the glucose and fructose structure, so we are relating the disaccharides. So structural informations are very important in learning the concepts here. Give importance to practice all the structures. The easiest way of remembering the structure will be taught in the classes. Try to follow very clearly. Now, so if we consider the glucose, so glucose is assumed to be the most abundant organic compound on the earth. It is the most abundant organic compound, as it is the building unit of starch, which is a reserved homopolysaccharide in all the plants. The monomer of all the glycogen, that is the reserved homopolysaccharide in animals, glycogen, is also made up of glucose. The structural component of all the plant cells, that is the cell wall component, cellulose, again it is a monomer of glucose form. Hence, as a glucose in its monomeric form is building the major polysaccharides, starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Hence, to the living system, the most abundant organic compound, so it is related. Now, glucose is an abundant source of the compound in almost all the fruits. So, if you take any sweet fruits, and honey, so glucose will be the rich source of any sweet fruits or honey if we take, as well as the ripened grapes. The ripened grapes are the richest source of glucose. So the ripe grapes or ripened grapes are the richest source of the glucose, which contain in large amount. Hence, there is a common name used for glucose because of this. It is grape sugar. Glucose is commonly known as grape sugar. These common names will be important for competitive exams. So it is called as grape sugar because of its abundant source in the grapes. So it is called as grape sugar. Then if we consider few optical parameters, already we learned in the definition. So carbohydrates are optically active compounds. That means either they rotate the plane polarized light towards the right hand side or left hand side. So all the carbohydrates are optically active compounds. If we measure the optical activity of glucose, so glucose is a dextrorotatory compound. Hence, as it is a sugar, so it is named as dextrose. Glucose is a dextrose, that is a dextrorotatory sugar. It rotates the plane polarized light towards the right hand side direction. Hence, glucose is called as a dextrose. So this will be a simple information. Then already we discussed all the monosaccharides are reducing in nature. Hence, glucose is an example of a reducing sugar. So with this basic few simple informations, now we'll try to learn. So one more point you can recollect about the classification what we have learned. So glucose is hexose. That is, it contains 6 carbon atoms in it, and it is aldose, as it contains aldehyde as a functional group. Together, by relating 6 carbon atoms and a functional group aldehyde, so it is also aldohexose. Glucose is aldohexose. By separating that based on the count of carbon, hexose for 6 carbon atoms in it, aldose as it contains aldehyde as the functional group. So this will be the basic information regarding the glucose. So it is one of the most abundant organic compound on the earth. So the abundant source, it is in sweet fruits and honey. As ripened grapes contains the rich source of glucose, so the common name of glucose is taken as grape sugar. As it rotates the plane polarized light, it is a dextrorotatory compound. As it reduces Fehling solution and Tollens reagent, it is a reducing sugar. With 6 carbon atoms present in it, it is hexose. With aldehyde as a functional group, it is aldose. All these supportive evidences we learn in the structure. How the 6 carbon atoms in the glucose is proved, we'll try to know with a chemical reaction. How aldehyde is present in it, again we'll try to support with a chemical reaction. So with this, the formula of the compound can be remembered. So it is C6H12O6 is the molecular formula of a glucose. Now, first we'll start with the preparation of glucose. What are the simple, apart from this abundant source as a natural source of the glucose, what are the methods which are available to prepare the glucose by using its abundant sources? That we'll try to focus. Then we'll go for the structural elucidation of glucose. Now, if we learn the methods of preparation, the rich source of glucose can be prepared by using sucrose, that is cane sugar or invert sugar, and starch, that is the reserved homopolysaccharide present in plants. So glucose is prepared by using 2 important sources. So one is from sucrose, and another compound, it is from starch. By using these, so we can able to prepare the glucose. So it is from the naturally available source we are taking its preparation. Now sucrose to consider, sucrose is commonly known as cane sugar or invert sugar, that we'll learn in detail in the disaccharide. Whereas starch is the reserved homopolysaccharide in plants. Now, the method how from sucrose glucose is obtained is, so we are subjecting the glucose to acid hydrolysis. If you treat with a dilute acid such as HCl or H2SO4, the bond between the glucose and fructose of the sucrose is going to be cleaved. As a result, we are going to get glucose as one of the products. That is, if you take sucrose, so sucrose as it is a disaccharide is represented by the formula C12H22O11. It is C12H22O11. So in that, so X value is 12, Y value is 11. So represented as CXH2OY. So here one water molecule is actually removed once a sucrose is formed. Now such a sucrose, if it is subjected with hydrolysis in presence of an acid, that is either HCl or H2SO4, it's not a strong condition, it should be a very dilute condition. If it is a strong condition, for example, concentrated H2SO4, if you treat with sucrose or a sugar, sugar gets charred. That is, it is going to give a black precipitate or a black mass. So that we'll try to learn as a chemical property in T block when we are learning. The sulfuric acid will relate. So the acid hydrolysis of sucrose will produce a glucose unit C6H12O6 and a fructose unit. Again, fructose is a hexose C6H12O6. The difference between glucose and fructose is that, so glucose is an aldohexose, whereas the fructose is a ketohexose. Once sucrose is subjected to hydrolysis, will relate for n number of moles. If n moles of sucrose is used, n moles of water is used in the hydrolysis to produce n moles of glucose and n moles of fructose. Or if you're not using that, so n, so directly you can relate for 1 mole. So 1 mole of sucrose utilizes 1 mole of water to give 1 mole of glucose and 1 mole of fructose as its product. Now this is in simple how glucose can be obtained by using the hydrolysis of sucrose. Another method of preparing the glucose is by using starch. Again, in starch, glucose will be the monomer's length. Actual formula of glucose is C6H12O6. As each glucose is involved in its glycolytic linkage, so C6H10O5N will be the representation formula for a starch. Again, this with structure we'll learn in the continuation of the topic. Just to represent the starch, so this n time repetition of a monomer is seen in the starch. Again, starch is subjected to acid hydrolysis. So n moles of water is utilized for this monomer combined in the form. So in presence of acid to indicate we'll consider H plus donating solvent. So again here it is dilute sulfuric acid is used here with a temperature of nearly 393 Kelvin and a pressure of nearly 2 to 3 atmosphere if you maintain, and if you heat, you are going to get n moles of glucose in the process, C6H12O6. So that is hydrolysis of starch produces glucose again. Hence both can be related as hydrolysis reactions. So hydrolysis of sucrose in mild acidic condition. Similarly, hydrolysis of starch in dilute acid at a temperature range of this and a pressure of 2 to 3 atmosphere will produce glucose, will be the most common method for preparation of glucose. We are not artificially synthesizing the compound. So already present source is used to prepare this compound. Hope the method of preparation is clear. So try to practice with the formula to relate. So exactly this and all you can easily learn when you complete the structural aspect. Hope this particular preparation method is clear. Now we'll try to move with a very important topic from the glucose. It is structural elucidations. Each structural elucidation, there is the evidences about the structure of glucose are very important. You may get either 1 mark question or 2 mark question in this. In the present 2020 March examination, they have asked 2 evidences as 1 mark questions respectively. That we'll try to focus now. So with simple chemical equation, we'll try to understand. Now we'll try to learn the structural elucidation of glucose. That is, what are all the evidences based on which the structure of glucose is formulated. Now, based on the elemental analysis, the molecular formula of glucose was found to be C6H12O6. So this we know that the basic idea of elemental analysis based on the mass percentage. So it was shown that, so in the glucose, there are 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms and 6 oxygen atoms are present in a glucose molecule. How these carbon atoms are present in the glucose, then what is the functional group in it, then what is the number of hydroxyl groups in it, then so how many primary hydroxyl groups or primary carbon is present. So all such informations are supported. So we have very important 5 evidences about the structure. The first evidence is to show that there is a presence of the 6 carbon atoms present in the glucose in a straight chain. To show that there are 6 carbon atoms present in a glucose. So, and all the 6 carbon atoms are present in a straight chain. To support that, we are having the first chemical reaction to understand. So that is by treating with the reagent hydrogen iodide. By treating with hydrogen iodide, we are going to show that there is a presence of 6 carbon atoms in a glucose molecule, which are all present in a straight chain. Then the second reaction will support all these with detailed equation. Just to give the summary of the structural elucidation I am relating here. So just understand this, then individual structural evidences will be more easy for you to learn. All these informations in the flow chart will be helpful for 1 mark question. Now, the second, if you treat either with the respective reagents, that is the hydroxylamine or with hydrogen cyanide, the treatment with hydroxylamine or if you treat with hydrogen cyanide. So by treating with hydroxylamine or hydrogen cyanide, so we are going to get a compound. So by hydroxylamine, we are going to get oxines. By treating with hydrogen cyanide for glucose, we are going to get glucocyanohydrin, obtaining oxine and cyanohydrin. So in this case, to conclude as 6 carbon atoms in a straight chain, so we are getting N-hexane. This N represent the linear form of hexane that shows it is. Now similarly here, so by treating with hydroxylamine, formation of oxine, or by treating with hydrogen cyanide, formation of cyanohydrin, so we'll confirm that so there is a presence of carbonyl group as the functional group. So both the evidences, that is treating with hydroxylamine or with hydrogen cyanide, will conclude the same information. It is presence of carbonyl group as a functional group. That is presence of carbonyl group. It is C double bond O. It may be either aldehyde or a ketone. Just a carbonyl group presence, so will give oxime or cyanohydrin. To show that carbonyl group as aldehyde is present in the glucose, we have the third evidence. So it is by treating with mild oxidation condition. If you subject glucose with mild oxidation condition, that is either by treating with bromine water or with dilute nitric acid. You can prefer anyone. As per NCERT, bromine water they have given. So dilute nitric acid or bromine water, if you treat for a glucose, so glucose is going to give a compound called as gluconic acid. Glucose is going to give gluconic acid. The names are not complicated, just you focus, you can easily remember. So practice in the beginning, so names will be familiarized. Now, obtaining the gluconic acid by treating with bromine water or dilute nitric acid will confirm about the structure of glucose is that. So it contains aldehyde as a functional group. The functional group present in glucose is aldehyde. It is shown by treating with mild oxidation condition and obtaining the gluconic acid. Then, to show that there are presence of 5 hydroxyl group in a glucose, so it is treated with acetic anhydride. Glucose is treated with acetic anhydride. So with the treatment of glucose with acetic anhydride, so it is going to give a pentaacetate of glucose. Pentaacetate of glucose is obtained. So by obtaining this pentaacetate of glucose, so it confirms that there are presence of 5 hydroxyl groups in a molecule of glucose. So in glucose, there are 5 hydroxyl groups are present. So that is confirmed by treating with the reagent acetic anhydride and obtaining the pentaacetate of glucose. And the last evidence, so it is to show that there is a presence of a primary hydroxyl group in a glucose. So it is subjected to a strong oxidation condition. A strong oxidation condition. That is concentrated nitric acid is treated with glucose. So with the treatment of concentrated nitric acid, glucose or gluconic acid, anything you take, so it will always produces a compound called saccharic acid. Saccharic acid. The formation of saccharic acid confirms that in a molecule of glucose, there is a presence of one primary hydroxyl group. There is a presence of one primary hydroxyl group. Now, what is primary hydroxyl group? You can think the classification, the hydroxyl group attached to a primary carbon. So then it is called as primary hydroxyl group. So these are the conclusions about the structural evidences. So all these we need to support with a simple chemical equation. So we'll take a simple representation of glucose to show all these chemical reactions. You write CHO as a aldehyde group first. Then you write CHOH repeated for 4 times. Then last you try to show it with CH2OH. So it is with 6 carbon atom. First you write aldehyde. Last you write primary hydroxyl group CH2OH. In between you write CHOH is repeated for 4 times. So this is a simple representation to show the chemical reactivity. Its actual structure we'll learn after completing the structural evidences. Hope this is clear. So this will be a 1 mark important question. So this year they have asked this one, and treating with acetic anhydride in the long question for 1 mark respectively they have asked this. So what is the conclusion you draw when glucose is treated with HI and glucose is treated with acetic anhydride? So the conclusion expected is this. So glucose contains 6 carbon atom in a straight chain is confirmed by treating with HI. A glucose contains 5 hydroxyl group is confirmed by treating with acetic anhydride. Or what happens with the treatment if it is considered? So with the treatment of HI, N-hexane is formed. With the treatment of acetic anhydride, a pentaacetate of glucose is formed. Now the same information you can consider here. Now with the second conclusion here, presence of carbonyl group is identified once a glucose is treated with either hydroxylamine or hydrogen cyanide and obtaining the oxime or cyanohydrin. Again, what is this oxime? How it is formed? What is cyanohydrin? So again, this in the nucleophilic addition reaction mechanism of aldehydes unit, we are going to learn in detail. With mechanism, we are supporting that. Then mild oxidation condition treatment of glucose leading gluconic acid confirms that there is aldehyde is a functional group present in glucose. Then strong oxidation condition to give saccharic acid confirms that there is a presence of one primary hydroxyl group in the glucose. With this basic overview about the structural elucidation, so we'll take the first evidence. Hope this information is clear. Now we'll understand the first one. So we'll take a simple representation of glucose. It is CHO, CHOH 4 times with CH2OH. So once glucose, if it is treated with hydrogen iodide, by treating with hydrogen iodide, if you heat the compound, it will form N-hexane, that is CH3, CH2, CH2, CH2 repeated for 4 times, followed by again terminal carbon CH3. So with 6 carbon atoms, a simple alkene, it is N-hexane is formed. the formation of this N-hexane by heating with hydrogen iodide. It can also be considered by treating with red phosphorus also. So the formation of N-hexane confirms that there is a presence of 6 carbon atoms present in a stride chain. So this will be the supportive equation you need to write. So with the explanation from this. So that is when a glucose is treated with hydrogen iodide, N-hexane is formed. So it confirms that the presence of 6 carbon atoms in glucose in a stride chain. Hope this first evidence is clear. Now we'll try to understand about the second evidence. Just check out. So we'll consider now with the second evidence. So once glucose, so if it is treated with hydroxylamine is NH2OH. So in ammonia, one of the hydrogen is replaced by hydroxyl group will form hydroxylamine. So that is hydroxylamine. If there is a carbonyl group, then only hydroxyl group will undergo a nucleophilic addition reaction. The functional group will undergo a nucleophilic addition reaction and will convert into a form. It is CHNOH. CHNOH. So the remaining, so it is as such CHOH 4 times CH2OH. So you just focus on this particular information. The CHO by treating with NH2OH is converted into CHNOH via a nucleophilic addition mechanism to form the oxime. Now whatever it is formed here, it is the oxime of glucose. It is named as glucose oxime. Similarly, so if you take a glucose, so and if you treat with hydrogen cyanide instead of hydroxylamine, so if it is treated with, that is a molecule of glucose, I'm not writing the formula clearly, so you try to write it same once you are practicing. So once glucose, now if it is treated with hydrogen cyanide, so we'll give cyanohydrin. Again, you can focus on the structure. It is CH. Again, it will be with nucleophilic addition mechanism. CHCNOH. The remaining CHOH 4 times CH2OH. So if you focus on the part related to the change in the chemical equation, now the aldehyde CHO group is undergoing a nucleophilic addition reaction to give CHCNOH, so which is named as glucocyanohydrin. Now the formation of this glucocyanohydrin or glucose oxime, so will confirm the same information from both the conclusion. It relates that there is a presence of carbonyl group as a functional group in the case of glucose. So if it is aldehyde or ketone, any of the functional group, the formation of the product oxime or cyanohydrin with hydroxylamine or hydrogen cyanide will be same. Hence, it is a common test by using aldehyde or ketonic functional group. So whereas to confirm this as a aldehyde, so we are having the third evidence. Hope the second evidence is clear. So treating the glucose with hydroxylamine, formation of oxime. Treating the glucose with hydrogen cyanide to form the cyanohydrin, both confirm the same information. There is carbonyl group present as a functional group in glucose. We'll observe that the third evidence by treating the glucose with bromine water or with dilute nitric acid. By treating with, we are going to get the aldehyde group is getting oxidized to carboxylic group COOH. So you can observe the changes there. So remaining it is acid CH4H 4 times CH2OH. If you observe that the aldehyde group, if it is present, then only it will be oxidized to carboxylic acid with mild oxidation condition. As the mild oxidation condition is giving this acid, gluconic acid, so this confirms that there is a presence of the aldehyde as a functional group. The compound obtained is gluconic acid. It is in the glucose. If it is aldehyde, then only it is oxidized to COOH under mild oxidation treatment. As it is producing the gluconic acid, it confirms that there is presence of aldehyde as the functional group in the case of glucose molecule. Hope this is clear. Now, if we consider the next evidence, so that is by treating with acetic anhydride. Acetic anhydride is CH3CO 2 times linked with O is the formula of acetic anhydride. Just to show the molecule of acetic anhydride, that is CH3, a carbonyl group CO, another group CH3CO, so which is represented as CH3CO 2 times. So this both the carbonyl groups are attached to oxygen, hence it is CH3. CO twice O is called as acetic anhydride, which is a very important carbonyl compound. In the preparation of aldehydes, ketones and all, we are going to learn in the unit. So just observe the structure, which is not required to relate in the equation, but how the reactivity is considered, we can relate with the structure. Now, once glucose is treated with this, so whatever the hydroxyl groups present, so they will undergo a cleavage like this. And this acetate portion, CH3COO minus, will add in the OH minus place. And this CH3CO will accept that OH to form CH3COOH. Hence, if there is one hydroxyl group, one acetate derivative is added to the molecule. So based on the obtaining acetic anhydride derivative there, will be confirming the presence of hydroxyl group. Now, in the glucose, so except the functional group aldehyde CHO, so to remaining all the carbons, we have hydroxyl group. And so it is going to form a structure like this. So it is CH O CO CH3. Just you can think the cleavage is taking place here with this O minus. So it is attacking this carbon, and this OH along with this CH3CO will be removed as acetic acid. So this will be repeated with 4 times, explains that. So the 4 carbons here, they are having the hydroxyl group, and the last carbon again it has the hydroxyl group attached. Again will undergo a similar acetylation reaction. This CH2O CO CH3. Whatever this compound is formed is a pentaacetate of glucose. Pentaacetate of glucose explains that there is a presence of 5 hydroxyl groups in the glucose. As a result of presence of 5, 1 mole of glucose will utilize 5 moles of acetic anhydride in the formation of pentaacetate derivative. So this will confirm there is a presence of 5 hydroxyl groups in a molecule of glucose. I will learn with the last evidence, that is treating either the glucose or gluconic acid. Now gluconic acid is the aldehyde group is oxidized to COOH. Remaining it is CHOH 4 times CH2OH. Either you take the glucose or you take gluconic acid. either the glucose or gluconic acid if you treat, and if you treat that with the concentrated nitric acid condition, it is concentrated HNO3. Both the primary hydroxyl group and the aldehyde group, so they are oxidized to carboxylic acid. So whereas in the case of gluconic acid, so the primary hydroxyl group is not oxidized, whereas the aldehyde is already oxidized to COOH. And in this, only 1 mole of carbon undergoing oxidation to give COOH, whereas a glucose, so 2 carbons will be giving the carboxylic form. So remaining carbons in between as such explains that they are not primary hydroxyl group containing compound, whereas the first and last carbon, so it is oxidized to COOH. So this compound is called as saccharic acid. It is in the glucose. First and last carbon we can consider as COOH. Either in mild or strong oxidation condition, CHO is oxidized to COOH. Along with this, the other COOH formed explains that so it is having 1 primary hydroxyl group present in the molecule. So this COOH, so will explain that either you take glucose with 1 aldehyde group or a gluconic acid with 1 primary hydroxyl group if you treat. So we'll be showing the formation of this respective thing that explains that. So this is the primary hydroxyl group present in a compound. So there is a presence of only 1 such primary hydroxyl group. This presence of 1 primary hydroxyl group in a molecule of glucose is confirmed through this reaction. So this is how the 5 evidences will explain the structure of glucose. Now by concluding all these evidences, we have a final structure of glucose formulated. So how it is written, how to practice the simple open chain structure of glucose, and what are the drawbacks in the open chain structure, we learn with the extension of cyclic structures, that is Fischer projection formula and Havard structure, that will complete in our next class. Thank you.